After locking down the Strait of Hormuz, is the US eyeing another key global shipping route as its next pressure point? Amid renewed fears of wider war, is Washington quietly expanding its military footprint beyond the Middle East into the Indo-Pacific's most critical lanes? As the Hormuz blockade faces pushback and limits, is Trump now targeting Xi's so-called Malacca dilemma as the next lever against Iranian ally? With a fresh defense deal to expand US air access in China's neighborhood, is the battle over choke points moving from the Gulf to the Strait of Malacca? After imposing a blockade on the Strait of Hormuz, the US may now be eyeing the Strait of Malacca as its next strategic focus area, according to recent reports. The US and Indonesia signed a new pact this week that expands American military air access over Jakarta's airspace. This defense agreement signals a potential widening of US strategic focus beyond the Middle East into key Indo-Pacific corridors. Analysts say the US may be trying to monitor the Strait of Malacca more closely using its enhanced regional access. Notably, the Strait of Malacca is a vital trade artery linking the Indian Ocean with major East Asian markets. A significant share of global oil shipments also transits through this narrow maritime corridor each year. Along with energy supplies, the route carries large volumes of electronics and key industrial components crucial to global supply chains. China depends heavily on this route and has long framed that reliance as a strategic vulnerability, often described as the Malacca dilemma. Experts say the US views the Strait of Malacca less in economic terms and more as a potential military choke point. Its narrow width at key points makes the strait vulnerable to disruption or interdiction in conflict scenarios. Indonesia, Malaysia, and Singapore jointly oversee security in the Strait of Malacca under existing regional arrangements. Consequently, sovereignty concerns in these three littoral states complicate any expanded US security presence in and around the strait. Singapore's economy remains deeply tied to stable and open shipping lanes through the Strait of Malacca. India also gains strategic relevance because of its geographic proximity to the western entry of the Malacca Strait. The Andaman and Nicobar Islands offer India a key maritime surveillance and forward deployment edge near this gateway. India's expanding military infrastructure in these islands strengthens its ability to oversee regional sea lanes and monitor naval movements. Despite the United States announcing a naval blockade in the Strait of Hormuz, Iran appears to be largely unaffected in its immediate response. Iran has also dismissed the impact of the blockade, suggesting it can offset pressure by expanding cross-border trade activity. Officials highlighted the country's extensive 8,000-kilometer land and maritime borders, indicating that alternative routes remain available. According to reports, Iran's interior minister has instructed border provinces to increase both imports and exports. Iran's interior minister said, and I quote, "The governors of border regions, for the purposes of neutralizing enemy threat to the level of population's life, should further strengthen and develop border trade, including imports of primary goods and exports of products, mobilizing all the possible national and regional resources for this purpose and interacting with public entities, such as cooperatives of border residents, and so on." End quote. Despite enforcing a naval blockade, the United States is reportedly exploring the possibility of resuming talks with Iran. According to reports, Donald Trump indicated that a new round of discussions could take place within the next 2 days. He also suggested that Pakistan may once again serve as the venue for these negotiations. Meanwhile, on April 13th, U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance accused Iran of engaging in economic pressure tactics. Vance also called for the complete reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, describing any restrictions as unacceptable.
So I think it was the first time that you'd ever seen the Iranian government, the U.S. government meet at such a high level, maybe in the history of the current leadership of Iran. So that's, I think, a positive. And again, we did make some progress in the negotiation. The big question from here on out is whether the Iranians will have enough flexibility, whether the Iranians will accept the critical things that we need to see in order for things to get done. Whether we have further conversations, whether we ultimately get to a deal, I really think the ball is in the Iranian court because we put a lot on the table. We actually made very clear what our red lines were. We also made clear, Brett, that we actually would be very happy. The President of the United States has said he would be very happy if Iran was treated like a normal country, if it had a normal economy, if its people were able to prosper and thrive. But in order for Iran to be a normal country economically, it's going to have to be a normal country from the perspective of not pursuing a nuclear weapon, and it's going to have to be a normal country from not pursuing terrorism. And so there really is, I think, a grand deal to be had here, but it's up to the Iranians, I think, to take the next step. Is that we need to see the Straits of Hormuz fully open. And this is, frankly, one of the things where the Iranians tried to move the goalposts during the negotiation. We made very clear that that's unacceptable. We came to the negotiations saying the United States, what we've given here is a ceasefire. We've stopped bombing the country. What we expect the Iranians to give up is a full reopening of the Straits of Hormuz. We have seen, as the president has said, some significant uptick in traffic coming through the Straits of Hormuz. That's good for the global economy. It was about the United States and the fact that he's been a good partner to both me and the president personally, but also to the United States. I'm sad that he lost. We'll work very well, I'm sure, with the next prime minister of Hungary. But it wasn't a bad trip at all, because it's worth standing by people, even if you don't win every race. They basically threatened any ship that's moving through the Straits of Hormuz. Well, as the President of the United States showed, two can play at that game. And if the Iranians are going to try to engage in economic terrorism, we're going to abide by a simple principle that no Iranian ships are getting out either. We know that's a big deal to them. We know that applies additional economic leverage.
Iran strongly condemned the United States as it launched a provocative naval blockade on the strategically vital Strait of Hormuz, escalating tensions in one of the world's most critical shipping lanes. Iran's IRGC Quds Force chief boldly declared that both the US and Israel will ultimately return completely empty-handed from their aggressive maneuvers in the region. Brigadier General Esmail Qani's pointed comments were prominently reported by the Iranian state-affiliated outlet Press TV on April 13, highlighting Tehran's unyielding stance. The U.S. on April 13 officially launched a comprehensive naval blockade aimed specifically at stopping ships from entering or exiting key Iranian ports along the Persian Gulf. However, fresh reports indicated that multiple commercial and cargo ships successfully transited the Strait of Hormuz despite the heavily publicized U.S. blockade efforts. An Iran-linked oil tanker, along with several Chinese ships, were reportedly able to transit freely amid the ongoing blockade, underscoring potential cracks in the American enforcement.